Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rebel News live stream on this, a Monday, September 16th, 2024. I'm David Menzies, and my co-host, well, let me tell you a little bit about my co-host. Do you know what, folks? Today is National Guacamole Day, and my co-host happens to be a devout Catholic. So when you think about it, whenever she eats avocados, it really is holy guacamole. Anyway, she is the she-devil with the sword. She is the Khaleesi of Northern Alberta. She is Sheila Gunn Reid. And Sheila, I see a smile on your face, thank goodness, because in the lead up to the show, I saw a video of you, and I asked super producer Olivia, is Sheila crying? And Olivia said, no, she's concentrating. Because there's no crying on the live stream, no matter what, okay?
There's no crying in baseball. There's no crying on the live stream. I was probably squinting because I don't wear my glasses as frequently as I should. So I was probably trying to read the small print on something. But it is also... besides National Guacamole Day, which I do like guacamole. It's one of the vegetables that I will actually eat.
I love guacamole.
I love it. A good fatty vegetable. That's great. It's also National Tattoo Story Day.
What?
And yes, it is. And strangers frequently ask me to walk them through the meanings of my tattoos. So this is a day for Sheila, I suppose. And also it is, I think it's the harvest moon tonight. So it's, and there's also, I think a lunar eclipse or a partial lunar eclipse happening over like tonight and the next night. So there's a lot of things happening in the world today, besides all the things that we plan to talk about.
Sheila, I'm still a tattoo virgin, but if I were to take the plunge, I know you're nicely painted up. And what would you recommend? It would be a nice tattoo for me, because I really don't even know what to pick.
I don't know. I would get, well, I would say like I would get your hat, just a little like outline of your hat somewhere, but you always wear your hat. So maybe it would be just a big pair of prosthetic boobs.
You know, my favorite tattoo joke ever was from the late, great George Carlin. And he said, getting a suntan, and you see this written on his back. Please, please, please don't tell this guy all the crap we wrote on his back. He thinks it's a pirate ship.
I should tell everybody what we're doing because you
have to do the anyway.
Anyway, let us get us out of this. Let's tell everybody what we're doing here today. We've got a ton of news to talk about today. Already this morning, the Foreign Interference Commission started and then wrapped up before noon, as bureaucrats tend to love to do. And then, just another day in American politics, another assassination attempt. And so that means we should be done talking about it in about 36 hours, because that's how quick the news cycle moves away from things that happened to President Donald Trump in the United States. So this is the Rebel News Roundup. It used to be a daily show, then a weekly show, and now we're back to twice a week. Maybe if you like us, maybe you'll get more of us, wherein we talk about the news of the day and of the weekend completely unscripted. Now, the beauty of the show is that besides it being unscripted and you get to see sort of David and me in our natural elements instead of doing scripted work to the camera, you get to interact with us, but also support the work that we do here at Rebel News completely out of the goodness of your heart instead of against your will, the way Justin Trudeau makes you support the mainstream media. So if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for sticking it out there. But you should know that YouTube is a censorship platform that has completely demonetized us. We still broadcast there, I think partially because of spite. They don't want us there, so that's how you get us. But also because some of you, that's your preferred way of watching us. So we stick it out there. But if you want to support a platform that doesn't care about your politics, believes in free speech, and goes the extra step to defend free speech from government overreach, head on over to Rumble, because on Rumble you can do something called a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If your paid chat is over the $5 US minimum, I'm making it mandatory. I will read it, and David and myself will do our best to address your paid chat on air, but don't let that be the bar for entry. We frequently read the chats that are below the $5 US cutoff, and sometimes even the free chats if you guys are clever, witty, or insightful. And one of the reasons we like to broadcast on Rumble, as I said, is that we are not demonetized there. And the beauty of not being demonetized there is that we can take ads and talk about sponsors. And these sponsors also believe in free speech. So let me ask you a question. How many of you are concerned that your privacy is being attacked by the radical left? And by the radical left, I would lump the government in there. In the United States, the deep state, including the DOJ, in Canada, definitely the Department of Justice too, invading individuals' private messages and targeting them based on their political affiliation. That's why we've partnered with Freedom Chat, a private social messaging app that, like us, believes privacy is a fundamental human right. Remember privacy? We used to have medical privacy too. That's long since gone. We already mentioned this app once before, and we're going to continue to talk about it and use it. Freedom Chat offers true end-to-end encryption, built-in screenshot protection to ensure that no one can screenshot your conversations, no storage of messages on their servers, and no commercial use of user data. This is the app that we trust, and it's the app our families rely on, especially as we approach the election. Some people will stop at nothing to maintain power, making privacy protection more important than ever. Download the app right now by going to freedomchat.com/Rebel News. We are such fans of Freedom Chat that we have even created our own channel at Rebel News, which you can subscribe to for exclusive content, including never before seen images, videos, and posts. Simply download the app, search for our channel at Rebel News, and subscribe. No one can see the channels that you are subscribed to or the posts that you react to. It's your own private news feed. If you're on Android, like I am, you can scan the QR code on your screen and subscribe to their waitlist, or go to freedomchat.com/Rebel News. Again, download the app today, subscribe to our channel at Rebel News for exclusive posts and never before seen content. We have already posted a few times in our channel and are going to continue to post, so make sure that you go download the app and subscribe. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. All right. David, someone will have to show you how to do that on your phone.
It's a moot point. I have an Apple.
Well, no, it isn't, because Apple has the app. Android users like me have to go through the additional step to get to the app. So yes.
Okay. Well,
okay.
You've completely confused me already. But
I know.
But Sheila, as you mentioned, I got to tell you, today I woke up in a surly mood. Yes, it's like summer. in September here. Well, technically it still is summer, but I mean, it's like mid-July. The birds are singing. Sir Gregor is licking my face. That's my beautiful golden doodle.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yes, I know. I just realized what I said there. And yet I was in a surly mood, Sheila, because yesterday, what we saw yet again, we got to throw. I mean, CNN and MSNBC, and they're going all out with the A word, alleged. You know, a man was allegedly looking to
Are they even calling it that? I saw that it was called the golf club incident.
The golf club. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was the golf club incident. Oh, Trump double bogeyed? No, there was a guy in the bushes ready to blow his a shot into him. You know, Sheila, the best commentary on this last night as the news was breaking, I think, was from the great one, Mark Levin. He was on Fox. And after they reported what happened, what he simply said is this: who's in charge? Who is in charge? And what he meant by that is Mark Levin, back in the 80s, he worked in the Reagan administration.
In the DOJ, I thought.
Pardon me?
I think he worked in the DOJ, Attorney General.
And the Reagan administration.
Yeah.
That's right. The Attorney General he worked under was Edwin Meese. And if this was a Democratic presidential candidate with multiple assassination attempts on his or her life, Reagan would have picked up the phone to the AG, Edwin Meese, and he would say, listen, you have 48 hours to get to the bottom of this. I want answers, and I want it within 2 days because I'm going to have a press conference. That's it. Hang up the phone. Meese would then go out to every agency in the federal government that has anything to do with security or law enforcement and say, you guys have 24 hours to give me a full report about what the hell's going on. And they would have gotten to the bottom of this, and they would have been at the forefront, and probably, most likely, Sheila, at the very least, ramping up security. Right now, where's Joe Biden? We think he's in California. We think he might be on a beach making sandcastles. You know, Jill, look, I think this one is beyond the tide line. So when the tide comes in, it's not going to dissolve. That's very good, Joe. Would you like an ice cream cone now? Do you want to take a nap? Where is he? Sheila, it's like nobody is in charge. And this is so serious. This is 2 assassination attempts in, 62 days since the Butler, Pennsylvania one?
64 days, yeah.
64,
so
thank you.
The reason I know that is because I was reading the headlines this morning for how crazy this is and how the mainstream media is downplaying this. So from the conversation, they say, the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump in 64 days is a troubling turn of events. Troubling. And then the Los Angeles Times and others try to downplay that the fact that we've had about an assassination attempt a month on the former president of the United States. They say, it's not that bad because President Ford survived 2 assassination attempts in 3 weeks in California. Oh, okay, we've dusted off President Ford for comparisons. Like, it's they're doing their best to say, well, this is just like it's a nothing burger. This is just an angry guy in the bushes, and to not take the fact that another armed assassin has tried to take out, I think, the next president of the United States.
Yeah, and Sheila, you forgot one other plank the mainstream media and the Biden administration's other useful idiots are going with. It's now high time to ramp down the rhetoric. We got to ramp down the rhetoric. And by that, they mean Donald Trump shouldn't be talking about the potential for World War III. Donald Trump shouldn't be talking about a bloodbath if Kamala Harris gets elected. And by the way, there's so many dummies out there, Sheila. They think what he means by that is another January 6th, which was a nothing burger anyways, except more so with actual blood. what Donald Trump was saying about a bloodbath, it'd be a bloodbath for the American automotive industry, right?
Yeah.
So I say, no, you know what? Time to ramp up the rhetoric. Time to, like Mark Levin was saying, who the hell's in charge? What are you going to
Yeah.
do about this? I mean, this was so lucky that Secret Service agent saw a gun barrel coming out of the bush. And by the way, I hate to ask impolite questions. How did something that was unannounced, like Donald Trump shooting a few holes of golf, how did this gunman know about that? Who tipped him off? Okay. Why is his Facebook page already scrubbed, Mr.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg? You know, I mean, there were so many questions, Sheila, and it's so outrageous. And I think if I'm in Donald Trump's shoes, to heck with depending on the Secret Service and the FBI, I am now, wherever I go, I am bringing my own pistol packing security detail. I am taking double coverage because I don't trust the state to do the right thing here.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably a safe bet that President Trump would be playing golf on a Sunday. Like, I guess maybe could have been just a lucky guess. I know that Sean Hannity was invited to play with them. He said yesterday, and he decided not to because he said he's not a good enough golfer to play with President Trump, and that is true. He's an excellent golfer. But the headlines are just pathetic today. Another assassination attempt, baseless claims about pets, and Taylor Swift. The U.S. election is wild, but does any of it matter? But as we know, this guy's a left-wing radical, and that's why everybody's trying to change lanes. He was actively trying to illegally recruit and smuggle people in to Ukraine to fight on behalf of the war efforts there. Nice. I saw pictures of him cutting the grass in Independence Square in Ukraine with scissors because he's so committed to defending Ukraine. Ryan Wesley Routh looks like Egon from the Ghostbusters a little bit. His son seems to be as insanely radicalized as he is. I forget which news outlet he said. Basically, he saying of his dad, he hates President Trump the same way all right-thinking people do, suggesting that he's just a martyr. He was out there doing the right thing on behalf of all the other people who hate him.
Well, I can't explain that smug look on his face. I'm sure he's going to get some serious prison time. One would hope that be the case. But Sheila, there's less than 2 months to go before the U.S. federal election. And I am so concerned about the attempts on this man's life and how it's just being brushed over. Like you said, in 36 hours, it was the what attempt on Trump? They'll be changing the channel on this. Butler, Pennsylvania was almost immediately forgotten. And worse, you had commentators saying that Trump was ginning this up. Did you see the oversized Band-Aid he got put on his ear?
Right.
I mean,
I saw somebody say, "Oh, but look, no ears were hurt in the this latest attempted assassination attempt." I see the LA Times is out there with their telling us who the real victims are, although I guess they're just quoting directly from President Biden, who seems to have come to life. They dusted him off and dragged him out of the crypt for this one. They reanimated his corpse so that he could give a statement. He says that the Secret Service needs more help because the real victims are the Secret Service here and not the fact that President Trump was almost killed twice now, almost shot dead twice now. The Secret Service, they're the ones who need more help. I don't know, Biden. I hope you find the guy in charge so that we can level up the Secret Service detail on President Trump. I hope you find that guy.
Yeah, and I would argue whatever Secret Service detail goes around with Sleepy Joe, it should be double on Trump, but it's not. You don't get the same level. as even an ex-president that might be the future president. And this is the person who we've seen in, as you said, 64 days, 2 serious attempts on his life. And for the mainstream media to dismiss this and even double down, I think it was CNN, don't quote me, it was one of the mainstream media outlets. There was a panel discussion, and this was the cockamamie idea that came up for discussion. Do you know, if we took white people out of the equation, this would be a landslide victory for Kamala Harris. Can you imagine, right? These are the people that are supposed to be so race obsessed. And that is one of the lines, because you see, the connection is, Sheila, it's only white supremacists that want Trump in office. He would be their champion for white supremacy, when all the facts in Trump's political and business career paint the exact opposite picture. So just absolutely despicable what we've seen, the attempt, and now the what I think is a cover-up, and the media so-called coverage. And I just fear for this man's safety, Sheila.
Oh, I know. And the media the motives are unclear. They keep saying the motives are unclear. I don't know, 19 donations to the Democrats, and just a wild obsession with Putin and Ukraine, and then with the Democrat media last week saying, it was nothing but Putin, Putin, Putin. The Republicans are, actively advocating on behalf of Putin. That's all you heard in the mainstream press. And they've radicalized this guy. Even worse, I think. I think he was probably a radical in his own right. But the liberal rhetoric about everybody being a Russian operative, I think really might have pushed this guy right over the edge.
No, and Sheila, that's a very important point, because when it comes to, tone down the rhetoric, what rhetoric is that? Comparing Trump to a dictator, comparing Trump to Hitler, as has been, just Google Trump Hitler comparisons. You won't believe how many come up in mainstream US media. When you compare Trump to Hitler, even worse, Trump to Satan. Trump is the great devil, you see. You have demonized this man. And so you have the likes of this person hooking, taking the bait, hook, line, and stinker. And actually, I think, Sheila, that person and his ilk, they are so delusional. They are so hardcore in their hatred. I truly believe that they think if they could have pulled off an assassination of Donald Trump, they will be lauded as a hero. I think that's what's in their minds. They have been so indoctrinated, once again, by the useful idiots in the mainstream media. There is so much blame to go around on this file, I think.
I completely agree. On the flip side, Vladimir Zelensky's glad to hear that Donald Trump is safe and unharmed. So that's according to The Guardian today. And it sounds like even though this guy was trying to recruit people for the war effort, a representative from Ukraine's Foreign Legion, which is where the foreign nationals come to help Ukraine in their war effort, said that the suspect had contacted them online multiple times, saying he was offering us large numbers of recruits from different countries, but it was obvious to us that his offers were not realistic. We didn't even answer, they said. There was nothing to answer to. He was never part of the Legion and didn't cooperate with us in any way.
What a loser.
Absolutely, just a loser. I saw online that he was trying to recruit like Afghan nationals who have just, I think, probably been through quite a war of their own and probably should be rebuilding their own country to go fight on behalf of the war effort in Ukraine. Like, that's what this guy was up to.
Yeah, but then again, Sheila, I can see the logic there. Biden a couple of years ago left behind $64 billion of state-of-the-art military hardware. So I think the Afghans...
Yeah, they might have something.
Yeah.
They might have some
Now
help.
we have something to shoot at. Yeah, count us in. How much you paying?
Yeah. Yes. You know what? We've got a quick ad break.
Okay.
I'll do, and then we've got a message from our friends at Give, Send, Go. And then maybe we want to talk a little bit about your trip to Springfield.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
I think your David Menzies After Dark was one of your greatest pieces of work ever. Because that's really why I wanted you to go. I was like, go to the park, show me where they're strangling the ducks at night.
But
And
according
again,
to the boss, I think at 1:40 TMI moment, too much information. Anyway,
I know. Well, wouldn't be David Menzies After Dark without David Menzies being David Menzies After Dark. Okay. So got a message from our friends at Give, Send, Go. Finally, we're beginning to see the legitimate alternatives to big tech companies in all spheres of society. Now, anytime you have a fundraising need, start a campaign on Give, Send, Go and invite your community to stand with you. Give, Send, Go has become the #1 choice for so many who were not given a voice because of what they believed. When other platforms silenced, Give, Send, Go came in and stood for freedom. Give, Send, Go is a family company that shares your values. They are the only fundraising platform with a hope team of dedicated individuals who personally call every campaign and praise for them and their situation. There's even a pray button on every campaign page too, so anyone can offer a kind word to those who are raising funds. With 20 fundraising categories, currencies in over 80 countries, and more money in your pocket, go to the platform preferred by Jordan Peterson, Kyle Rittenhouse, Eric Metaxas, and the Freedom Convoy. Give it a go on givesendgo.com. Olivia, do we want to do our ad break, or do we want to talk about David Menzies' quick trip to Springfield briefly? Okay, Menzies, tell us about your trip to Ohio.
Yeah, so me and Leap and Lincoln Jay, we hopped in the Menzoid mobile, drove down. It took us about 10 hours after being detained for an hour at the border. Isn't that kind of funny? Journalists going into the land of the First Amendment, fully documented, and they had to have a little powwow. Are these two a little too much of a risk? Meanwhile, on the southern border, what's it been, Sheila, in the last 4 years?
Oh,
20 million people.
Southern border? How about the northern border? They're catching terrorists up there. So maybe they thought you were just another one of Justin Trudeau's asylum seekers coming to destroy some Jewish community in upstate New York.
Yeah. So anyways, so we went all the way down there, and I can tell you folks, it's just good old fashioned shoe leather journalism. I remember a time, a story like this that is so sensational, Sheila, you would have the mainstream media in Canadian cities. They would send down a photographer and a reporter, and they would get to it. Now it seems to be they sit in their ivory towers and just poo-poo it because this is Donald Trump rhetoric, and we got to ramp it down. Now, the most sensational thing about Springfield, Ohio, is the animal angle. There are ducks and geese allegedly being taken out of the waterways around Springfield. There are cats and dogs allegedly being kidnapped and either eaten or used for sacrificial or for a sacrifice, I should say, because let's face it, many Haitians do practice voodoo, and animal sacrifice is part of that faith. Now, here's the thing, Sheila, we have a few eyewitnesses, I think 3 on camera, saying they witnessed a pet being killed. One lady in particular, I think her name was Jessica, said that her daughter's cat was deliberately run over by a Haitian. And I'll tell you what makes me uncomfortable in terms of buying into that. And I'm not saying it's true, and I'm not saying it's untrue. If that is the case, and she was adamant on this and she was emotional about it, when I asked, did you take a picture? And she said, no. Did you phone the police? And she said, no. Sheila, does that pass your sniff test? If one of your animals was deliberately killed, and we live in a day and age when just about everybody has a phone with a camera on it, and for goodness sakes, people take a picture of their lunch before eating it these days, just for evidence alone. Now, I understand your pet now dead. That's traumatic. But I would assume for evidence, you want a photograph of that, and didn't exist. So that has my spidey sense tingling. On the other hand, going into the parks, we spoke to so many people from Springfield, and these are people that have lived in this city for more than 50 years, that were absolutely adamant that the geese and duck population is a fraction of what it used to be just a few years ago, coinciding with the arrival of the Haitian immigrants. And, this is Snyder Park. By the way, this was very interesting. This is why I think, Sheila, despite what anyone's preconceived notions are, if you're going to do journalism, you have to go with an open mind and you have to ask all the questions. What you're seeing there, folks, is a sign. It was a professionally made steel sign and professionally mounted. Maybe if we can see a shot of it. But what it says is, do not eat the ducks. And there's the international pictogram of the slash through a duck. And my original angle, we were tipped off about this sign by a local. And I thought, holy mackerel, if the city of Springfield is saying nothing to see here, no ducks and geese are being eaten, why would they post a sign saying, do not eat the ducks? But Sheila, there was something about the language, do not eat, the duck. I mean, for politicians and bureaucrats to get to the crux of the matter with one word as opposed to using a 10-word salad ingredient, that sort of set me off. So thank goodness I contacted that park employee who was driving by, and I asked him, because the city, by the way, Sheila, was saying nothing to anyone about this, which is grossly irresponsible. I mean, the whole situation. And we got this great video where he phoned it in to his supervisor and was told, it's not ours, take it down. It is not approved signage. Now, you could argue, isn't it a good sign telling people not to eat ducks? Yes. But I guess there's a protocol. So the reason why I'm so happy I did that, Sheila, had I gone with my original instinct, if this isn't a problem, then why is the city erecting a sign, do not eat the ducks? And then it comes out later after we post it. You know what's going to happen. Look at those dummies at Rebel News.
Fake news, yeah.
Yeah. Getting pranked by some hoaxer. So, but it just shows you, how many elements there are to the story. But the big picture is this. And Sheila, I want you to weigh in because I've been doing a lot of talking about this. At the end of the day, there's either 12, 15, 20,000 Haitian migrants in the city of Springfield, which I think is 58,000. So practically a third of the domestic population. Now, had those Haitian migrants been in a place like New York or Chicago or Los Angeles, you wouldn't notice them. They just blend in. But you do notice them in a small city like this. So why are they there? And multiple sources said that, Springfield, Ohio is kind of like one of those towns that, Bruce Springsteen would write a song about, a town, a city or town in the American heartland that's seen better days, and the textile mill is closing and those jobs ain't coming back. Well, guess what? There was a twist to that. There are new factories and businesses opening up in Springfield. The problem is, and not surprisingly, it coincides with the COVID lockdowns. We were told that they can't get the necessary labor. And one of the reasons is that what you're getting on an hourly basis, it isn't fantastic. And it's really hard work. In the case of the Dole plant, the fruit and vegetable people, you're spending hours and hours in a cold room doing hard work. So many of the locals, again, this is what we were told by multiple people, they look at their government assistance benefits. And this speaks to how broken the system is, Sheila, I think. And basically it boils down to this. If I get off government assistance and accept that job at the factory and get my candy ass out of bed at 5:30 in the morning to go and put in a hard day's labor, and when I get my paycheck after 2 weeks, I take a haircut compared to what I'm getting from being on the dole as opposed to working for dole, if you don't mind me using a little metaphor there. And so, no, I'm fine, Jack. I'm going to sit at home and watch 90 Day Fiancé all day long and collect a stipend. So it was businesses saying, we need workers or we can't fulfill these jobs. That's what's being told to me. Now, two other points about this. One, we've been told these are temporary workers. Sheila, I could be wrong, but I don't believe that for a heartbeat. I think this is the pathway to citizenship for these Haitian migrants. I don't think they're ever going back. I mean, if you're from Haiti, if you're from Port-au-Prince, why in blue hell would you ever want to go back there? So I think they're here to stay. And I also speak to the unspoken strategy out there. And we see it in our country too, with the illegal aliens coming in and those gaming the citizenship system. And that is this. Is there a quid pro quo behind the scenes that in Canada every 4 years, all we're asking for you for taking advantage of all of our social services is vote Team Red, Liberal, and in the US, vote Team Blue, Democrat. And it's about changing demographics, Sheila. Right now, Ohio is a red state. It's traditionally a swing state. I would say it's getting redder now than it was before, but that's beside the point. Could this be part of a plan where you alter the demographics so red states go to blue states? I think in part that's what's happening here. Your thoughts, Sheila?
My thoughts have to be kept short because Olivia is telling us to move along. But I will tell you that having people just eat the ducks and geese in the park is, as I've repeatedly said, a good non-governmental solution to the invasive species of Canadian geese. I still don't understand the problem. Like, they're eating the geese in the park. All right. We pay government workers to deal with the geese around here. So I don't know. But I do think you're right. There is a reason why the government, the federal government, is dumping large numbers of an incompatible culture into the middle of Middle America. And it is the same reason they won't tighten up the southern border. It's because they rely on the changing demographics to change the voting habits there. And I think that's what we're seeing there. Olivia, do we want to hit a Rebel News ad break and then we'll go into Canadian news, please?
I'm in Brazil, so I'm using a VPN to get on the internet. What's a VPN? It stands for a virtual private network, and you get around these government firewalls. Suddenly, the president of Brazil banned his whole country from going on Twitter. It was a political censorship move. I've downloaded the VPN from a company called PIA VPN. We've teamed up with them at Rebel, and it's a great deal. I got on the internet really quickly, safely, and even I'm a bit of a technophobe. I managed to figure it out with 2 clicks. And here's the great news. If you go to piavpn.com/Rebel News, not only do you get a big discount, but they pay us a bit of a commission too. Everyone's a winner. Your freedom, your VPN, and a little bit of cash coming to support Rebel News. I'm using it myself to get around the censors in Brazil. You can use it too. That's piavpn.com/Rebel News.
Why should you join Canada's National Firearms Association? We currently have one of the most aggressively anti-firearm governments in our nation's history, promoting fear and placing blame like never before. Our rights, freedoms, culture, and heritage, it's all on the line. But we are fighting back, and there is strength in numbers. We work within the law to change the law, to defend competitors, hunters, collectors, and other law-abiding firearms owners. We can get through this. We've done it before, and we'll do it again, if you are with us. Canada's National Firearms Association. Freedom, safety, responsibility.
Okie doke. In Canadian news today, it was very briefly this morning, the Foreign Interference Commission was sitting, but it's the government and it's run by bureaucrats, so they wrapped her up by noon. So whatever. But they're investigating attempts by foreign governments to meddle in Canadian politics. And while the focus was on China and Russia and India, you could tell that there is like no real interest on behalf of Russia, at least, and I think India as well, to meddle in Canadian politics because we're just not that important to them. But we know that 11 MPs have been implicated in a classified investigation benefiting from foreign interference. And if I had to guess, and I think it's fair, and he can come get me if he wants, Parm Baines is one of them. He is the now Liberal MP of Conservative MP Kenny Chew's riding. Kenny Chew was targeted directly by the CCP. And the alphabet soup of agencies, as they're called, CSIS, RCMP, they failed to tell him. Now, they did tell the Prime Minister's office that this was going on, but they didn't bother to tell Kenny, who happened to be the target, so he could make efforts to protect his family. Likewise with Michael Chong. You see the big dogs, the Prime Minister's office, they were informed that Conservative MP Michael Chong was being targeted right out of the Chinese embassy. And but Justin Trudeau knew. And what did he do? Nothing. Why would he do anything? Like, they're targeting his enemies. Why would he do anything? So all that is to say, we kicked off the second part of the Foreign Interference Commission today, headed by Justice Marie Hogue. The other parts were in April, and then there was an interim report. Now we're sitting again, or whatever you can call the 1.5 hours they spent talking today as a sitting. But right off the get-go, we find out, guess what? You're not going to find out anything. So let's show part of Justice Hogue's opening statements, if you will.
That I will not be publicly identifying parliamentarians whom in SICOP suspect of having participated in foreign interference activities or of having acted wittingly or unwittingly as agents of foreign state. Canada is a state governed by the rule of law, which recognizes and protects the fundamental rights of every individual, including the right to fully defend oneself against charges and accusation. Procedural fairness entrenches a similar principle, as does the Inquiries Act, which expressly prohibits the Commission from making an adverse finding against a person. In other words, a conclusion that will bring discredit on that person or tarnish his or her reputation, unless that person has been given notice and allowed full opportunity to be heard with respect to the charge of misconduct against him or her. In the present case.
So what that means is Canadians will go to the polls in October 2025 and potentially cast a ballot, put a check mark beside the name of someone who willingly colluded with a foreign state against Canadian interests to hang on to power. That's what that means. So what are we even doing here?
Well, Sheila, yeah, that was my question. I mean, the lack of disclosure here is egregious and outrageous. Why shouldn't we have the right to this information? I would argue in most jurisdictions in the world, at least the Western world, you would be given this information. Well, what is it like the Jack Nicholson line from that movie? You can't handle the truth. This is, like I said, it is egregious that we are being kept in the dark. And for the very reason you just said, who do I know who exactly I'm voting for come the next federal election? And I'm trying to piece together what the unspoken reason is why these names are not being released, Sheila.
Oh, because they could be falsely accused, I suppose. But if the alphabet soup agencies have named these people in the reports, I think there's pretty strong evidence. And what I think should happen is these people should be called to testify, shown the evidence, and then they can tell their side of the story. Didn't we already do that with Han Dong in the earlier part of this? He was presented with the evidence and then he gave his side, and then obviously I didn't believe him because it was unbelievable what he said.
No, but you're right. If they're falsely accused, then take the next 15 months, whatever it is, till next October, to set the record straight, clear your name. But all I'm asking for, Sheila, is transparency and full disclosure. Is that really too much of an ask in Justin Trudeau's Canada these days?
And where are the consequences then, right? You can willingly collude with a foreign state against the interests of Canada, and you can get away with it because you have the right to not be falsely accused. Well, that's a new thing because the Freedom Convoy was accused of terrorism over and over and over again, including at the commission into their actions. But now when parliamentarians are involved, it's a completely different story.
And Sheila, let us never forget the scandal that was or is those Chinese police stations in Canada. And in the GTA, I visited 3 of them. One was out of allegedly the Fu King Toronto, Canada Chinese Business Association. To be very careful how you pronounce that first word. Another was out of a house, typical subdivision house in Markham. And the third one, you compared it to something out of a scene from Men in Black, Sheila. It was a variety store in Scarborough, right? Yeah, right behind where we keep the empty bottles. That's where the agents are.
Right, by the vapes.
Yeah, I know. And really, and what the scuttlebutt was that it was kind of a bait and switch tactic by the Chinese, that you're having a lot of fraudsters from China preying on Canadians. We'll send our law enforcement over. And no, they don't wear uniforms or badges. They certainly don't carry firearms. But then we learned that allegedly they were going door to door of certain ex-Chinese nationals living in Canada and saying, we've been monitoring your social media and you've been saying some really nasty things about the regime. And we know you have friends and family members back in China. So we can do it the easy way or the hard way. Would you please get on a plane and come back and face the consequences? Or do we go after innocent bystanders back home? That is outrageous. That is like extortion. It's worse than extortion. I can't think of the right word for it. But I mean, Sheila, if that's what's really going on with these so-called Chinese cops and these Chinese police stations in Canada, this is a scandal that should still be on the front page. And yet it's blown over like it's nothing.
Well, and as we know with Han Dong, the Liberal MP for Don Valley North, he was implicated in a busing scandal of foreign nationals, students from outside of his riding. He doesn't know who paid for the buses, but there were 2 of them. And then all these Chinese nationals just showed up after and then voted for him in his nomination. And he campaigned outside of his nomination boundaries at this school for foreign nationals, which is odd. And then they just show up and all vote for him. And the implication is the Chinese national foreign students were intimidated by these PRC, People's Republic of China, operatives working out of these Chinese police stations. And yet still these Chinese police stations exist. They're there, intimidating people who are either foreign students in Canada to vote a certain way in the nominations, or Canadian citizens who are expats of China. And we saw testimony at the Foreign Interference Commission that happened in Han Dong's riding. It happened in Alice Wong's riding. It happened to Aaron O'Toole. It happened to Michael Chong and that NDP lady whose husband ripped off all the drug addicts charities. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Anyways, but she's NDP, Sheila, but they did it to her too.
I think you're being a little unfair to Han Dong. I can't tell you how many times I've hopped aboard a Go bus and it takes a detour and suddenly I find myself outside a Liberal constituency office and I'm told to get off the bus. And as I'm getting off the bus, somebody's handing me a crisp $20 bill and saying, can you fill in this ballot? It happens all the time, Sheila. I know, I got to tell you.
I got to take the bus more often. I could use the money. I know we've got to move ahead. Olivia gives me a special message from our friends at Rumble to read, and then we will go into Karina Gould saying ghoulish things about Pierre Poilievre. Just nonsense. These liberals, everything they say is just so desperate. But first, this sponsorship is from our friends at Rumble, one that's important to the survival of Rumble, but I think ours too. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would even censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but as you know, they did. Facebook even admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration, and I've done a series of reports on how the federal government here in Canada, they were appealing to Facebook and the previous iteration of Twitter to take down the posts of Canadians that they didn't like. However, Rumble didn't do any of these things. They held the line. They're attacked daily for giving us here at Rebel News a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in the corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble is fighting to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers. They don't get much of it. Watching our show here right now on Rumble is the most they can really ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight, and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. I love how that's described. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, we're just so happy and grateful that you watch us on Rumble. All right. Let's go into Karina Gould saying crazy things. She's insulting Pierre Poilievre here for some reason. Didn't she pose with a Nazi? I think she did. Let's go. Let's see what she's saying.
But what I want to talk about today is the fact that what I heard yesterday from Mr. Poilievre was so over the top, so irresponsible, so immature, and something that only a fraudster would do. When he's focused on having an election on the carbon price, what he's trying to do is distract Canadians from his real agenda. When he talks about the fact that, he cares about how Canadians are feeling in difficult economic times, what plan does he put forward? When it comes to our seniors, the only thing that we've heard is that he wants to raise the age of retirement, cut pensions, and remove their access to dental care. When it comes to families who are struggling, what are his plans? Get rid of affordable childcare and scrap the school food program? When it comes to making sure that Canadians have access to good quality information in a time of incredible disinformation, what does he propose to do? Defund the CBC. And
Yes.
all of you as journalists have experienced firsthand how he treats people who try to ask him tough questions, who try to have him face the scrutiny of what he puts to forward. And how does he react? As a bully, as someone who will not stand to scrutiny, who will not respond respectfully, not just to you as journalists, but on the questions you're asking on behalf of Canadians, because your job is to get that information to Canadians. And there's a reason why he doesn't want Canadians to know what his true agenda is. And it's because he knows that they won't like it if they find out. And so what we are here today as Liberals in this House going to do, and what we're going to be doing moving forward, is to make sure that we stand up every single day for Canadians, that we push back on his bullying tactics, that we push back on his irresponsible and immature antics in this place.
Well, you know what, Sheila, to paraphrase the most famous line from the movie Jerry Maguire, you had me at defund the CBC.
Right. But did you see what she's go ahead.
Oh, she's saying as though it's a bad thing, but the perverse irony here, Sheila, we've always had the CBC defending Liberals. Now we have Liberals defending the CBC. Can it get any more incestuous?
Yeah, it's like a snake eating its own tail. It's funny that she used the word fraudster to describe Pierre Poilievre when we've got a sitting Liberal MP, Randy Boissonnault, allegedly running a PPE company with a man who looks like the end state evolution of the human race, like in a million years, if we continue to like live a comfortable life, he's all long limbed and frail and androgynous. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, but Randy Boissonnault was running a PPE company allegedly, or it could be another Randy, who even knows, autocorrect Randy, with his end state evolutionary human Steven Anderson. And he was voting on pandemic PPE or pandemic lockdowns while running a PPE import company. And then they have the gall to accuse Pierre Poilievre of sounding like a fraudster. You know what sounds like fraud? The Ponzi scheme of the carbon tax she spent a few minutes trying to defend there. The carbon tax that says, first of all, if you give us money, we'll make the weather gooder. And then somehow magically, we'll cycle your money through the hands of 1,000 bureaucrats who don't work for free and then give you back more. You know, that sounds like a Ponzi scheme, right? Like there are people in jail for saying those sort of things in the private sector. And then, did you notice the appeal to the journalists? Pierre Poilievre is so mean to you, you guys. Yeah. But us liberals, we're nice to you. We give you money, wink, 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 wink. And Poilievre, she's so disrespect. Well, it is true, but you know, like they're not even hiding the reason they give the journalists money anymore. They're saying, we're nice to you. We take your questions, mainstream media, and he is not nice to you. And you cannot allow that mean man to be liked by the public. So do what we pay you to do. That's the unspoken thing here. Do what we pay you to do, and we'll continue to pay you.
And Sheila, they're addicted to that money. Let's face it.
Oh, yeah.
So many elements of mainstream media, be it TV, radio stations, and especially newspapers, it's a sunset industry. And I'm really not saying this with any relish. You know, I came into this career as a creature of print, but of course, what the mainstream media was some 40 years ago and what it is today, it's night and day. But one quick experiment, wherever you are living in Canada or the US, folks, get your daily newspaper and count the number of ads in it, because basically the business model of a print product is you need about 60% advertising, 40% editorial. I can tell you, I see publications, I'm not exaggerating, it's 95% editorial, 5% ads. And some of those ads, shockingly, are what's called house ads. It's advertising for products that belong to the news agency. So there's no revenue coming in. In other words, and also subscriptions are down. Advertisers are paying less for a page of advertising or half page, however they're buying it. The point is, Sheila, without government funding, they're dead. They are deader than disco, right? So that explains, I think, a lot at how you know, the kid gloves are on when it comes to covering the Justin Trudeau Liberals. And we don't have to go to some people who's certainly not a household name. Sheila, the head of the fish, Justin Trudeau himself, how many ethics code violations has he committed? How many scandals has he, like, I have literally lost count. I would have had to sit down before the show and go through it, you know, SNC Lavalin, blackface, it goes on and on. And
that's just him. That's just him. That's not his MPs. That's
right.
That's not Randy Boissonnault. That's not Talib Noor Mohammed, the chronic house flipper, voting on house flipping policies. It's not the Green Slush Fund scandal where we've got the Liberal appointed head of the Green Slush Fund giving her companies money from the Green Slush Fund. Yep. Tom Clark, who was appointed to the Tom Clark is a scandal in and of himself. So he's the guy who asked Justin Trudeau when he finally had him alone for an interview, what kind of shampoo that you use. And then the Conservatives thought, you know who should mediate our debate? That guy. And then it was just a great embarrassment. However, I'm so happy to say we're not that conservative party anymore. Are we, Pierre Poilievre? Then he gets appointed to the panel that selects the appointees to the board of the CBC. He's the guy that selected Catherine Tate, who doesn't even live in Canada, to be the head of the CBC that oversees the sinking of the ratings, but continues to pay herself and other CEOs bonuses. And get this, this is a real scandal that nobody's talking about. The head of Shopify, Harley Finkelstein, I believe, he was appointed to the CBC board. Tom Clark said that Harley Finkelstein should join the CBC board when two of Tom Clark's kids were working for Shopify. And then Tom Clark gets appointed to be the Consul General of New York. Justin Trudeau goes to visit him in April. Within days, they're shopping for a new $9 million apartment for Tom Clark. I mean, it's just wild. And the whole point is, yeah, there's so many conflicts of interest and scandals brewing. Like Jean Chrétien, I know he's not dead, but I think he's got 1 or 2 feet in the grave already. But this is the kind of stuff he only wishes he could have gotten away with. Instead, he just had sponsorship.
Like, I mean, going back to the Chrétien years, ad scam? Are you kidding me? That doesn't even register today.
Not even close. Not even close. Like, and there are people in jail for that. Yeah. And the stuff that Justin Trudeau is getting away with are just, it's wild. Just foreign interference, like we're MPs bought off by China. It just, you can't even think about the banana republic that we have.
You know, Sheila, you did a great job rattling off all those scandals. Did you mention the We charity scandal?
Oh, God, it's so long ago.
No, see what I mean?
Yeah, Justin Trudeau's a family getting paid by the charity he's giving a bunch of money to.
Keep it in the family, right?
Oh, God, it's just insane. Just
and
insane.
Speaking of bad liberals, or do we have to take an ad break? Because Mark Miller, and there's a consensus out there, and of course, he's a good friend of Justin Trudeau. But it seems that the dumber you are as a liberal, the more important cabinet position you get. Or is that just
right? Because you'll just read what they give you. We don't want anybody thinking about what they're reading when they give you it, right? Like they just need an automaton. And so Mark Miller, he's that dude.
Alberta, New Brunswick, and now Nova Scotia have all been pushing back on your plan to move more asylum seekers across the country. So it's not just Quebec a lot and Ontario bearing the brunt of that. Tim Houston says the federal government's taking advantage of the province. Premier Danielle Smith says her province is not open to accepting more migrants. How do you get uncooperative provinces, even provinces that say no thank you, to do this? It seems to me a very challenging feat.
Yeah, and let me say this, what they have said in the last few days publicly is more fiction than not. It looks like one of the bigger political soccer dives I've seen in a while. We've been working with provinces over the summer and as part of their decision at the Council of the Federation, which is council composed of premiers, where they usually get together and beat up on the federal government collectively, they came out of that and said they were going to take more asylum seekers to take the pressure off Quebec and Ontario. I've been working with responsible ministers of labor, skills, labor, immigration, and provinces over the summer as part of, as you said, a working group to see what that would look like. And we've shared a number of documents and information as to what the models would look like if we were to relieve the pressure from Quebec and Ontario that have seen more than their population share of people coming in through irregular means or through ports of entry, Trudeau Airport or Pearson Airport. And that has consequences on as per the share of the population that each province has. Premiers, it feels like a couple of these premiers were on their own conservative WhatsApp group and said, good golly, Justin Trudeau is going to force asylum seekers on us. It's complete garbage. We are looking at models whereby provinces, where they stand up, would say, hey, we'll take some asylum seekers. They can contribute to the economy. They'll get compensation. Federal government, as per our last budget cycle, has put $1 billion on the table for someone to lift up their hand and help out on this.
Right.
and it's up for grabs, but it's only on a consensual basis, and the consent first and foremost of the asylum seekers, but also of the provinces. And we're not ramming things down anyone's throats.
Yeah, consensual basis, Sheila, but I think she is experiencing it differently, maybe when it comes to consent. Not to rehash the whole Rose Knight situation, but the moment anyone ever says when it comes to immigration irregular, as opposed to illegal, the needle on my BS detector goes firmly into the red zone. Why can't they say that illegal illegal migrants are illegal migrants? Irregular to me, Sheila, sometimes I see irregular socks and they knock $2 off the, the purchase. But the other thing that got my BS meter lit up was skilled labor. What is he talking about, skilled laborers? I have gone to a couple of these demonstrations by predominantly Indian foreign international students. And I can tell you, there is no skill set there. I'm sorry, there isn't. When I asked them, what are you qualified to do? Those who can offer an answer, or for that matter, speak English, there's no there, Sheila. I mean, is he talking about like nurses and doctors and engineers coming into the country? Because that isn't the case.
Yeah. The thing is, Mark Miller wants us to be hard of remembering of the things he also said last week when he stood up in a press conference and basically said, we're going to do this to you. So we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. Yeah. You can take the asylum seekers or we are going to rent hotels in your province and stick them in there. That's what he said last week. And then it generated outrage because you just can't force these things on the premiers. So now he's had to rethink, oh shoot, maybe is this something we can do constitutionally? I'm not sure. Okay, this is the clip. So he wants us to forget that he literally said this last week. Let's show it. Where would the premiers get this idea except from him? Let's show this clip.
Never said anything of the sort. Well, look, right now we could open up a hotel in any particular province and ship people there. That's an option. We have been moving people around to relieve pressure from Ontario and Quebec. It's not a financially viable model. It's not an effective model, but it's one that needs some reform in order to make sure the provinces are stepping up, looking at what their labor force needs are, what the capacity is to help some of these folks as they wait the determination of their protected person status. And it's one where we actually need coordination with provinces. Most of the provinces are at the table talking to us about what these models would be. It's far from being complete. But again, there's only so far the federal government can actually be nice and say, please, we also have levers that we need to pull and push. And provinces do get the benefit from immigration. So it's something that we need to deal with in a responsible fashion, and we expect every single province to be responsible.
Okay, so where would the provinces get the idea that he's going to do this to them, except from him just saying it right there?
100%. And Sheila, I don't know if it was that news conference or something afterwards, but he used the phrase that Canadians want this. Canadians want this level of immigration. Where's he getting that idea from? Do you know anyone in your circle that is, oh, this is fantastic. Yes, flood in more migrants, contribute more to the housing crisis, contribute more to the healthcare crisis, more. But he actually said that. And I'm saying to Mark Miller, prove it. What research have you done that shows that the majority of Canadians support this? I would argue it's complete opposite.
You know who doesn't support it? Immigrants.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Immigrants who are already here. They're like, we came to Canada thinking we were going to get ahead. And then you just keep dumping more and more people in who didn't go through the official channels the way the other immigrants did. And it's causing pressure on everything. And a lot of them are considering going back to where they came from because Canada is not the free place that they thought it was. Just a side note, doesn't Mark Miller look slightly like King Tut's mummy? Like just slightly, just a little, he's looking frail. We should go to a quick ad break, and then we'll finish up with a few last couple of topics because we're way over time, as David and I tend to be.
It's the news event of the year. Canada's most controversial premier sits down with Canada's most controversial journalist, and everything is on the table. Come watch Ezra Levant one-on-one with Alberta Premier Danielle Smith in front of a live studio audience in Calgary. Nothing's off limits. Nothing's held back. Questions that would make Justin Trudeau invoke martial law. Answers that will make Stephen Guilbeault pee his pants. You're not going to want to miss this one, but you have to be there in person at the Rebel News Live mega conference in Calgary on October the 5th. Tickets are limited, so drop everything and go to rebelnewslive.com right now. Special discounted prices for Patriots and special extra high prices if you're with the CBC. Go to rebelnewslive.com now.
Here is my kind of passport, folks. Look at this beauty. Introducing a new special edition Freedom Passport. What if the greatest teacher of all time framed his message as a constitution for a kingdom of love, faith, and freedom? Inspired by Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount, this special edition Freedom Passport captures the foundational truths of love and freedom for all. It's a powerful reminder of Jesus' call to love one another that you can carry with you every day. Join the movement, share the truth, and spread the love with your family and friends. Get your Freedom Passport today at freedompassport.ca. That's freedompassport.ca. All orders in North America come with free shipping and a complimentary song with each purchase. And Sheila, we went from the illegal, allegedly capturing of geese and ducks to, well, here back home, away from Springfield, Ohio, Bowmanville, Ontario. I had no idea it was salmon fishing season and nets are permissible. Or are they? What do you make of this most recent enrichment in our land, Sheila?
Do we have that clip? Let's show the clip, because
Yes.
I'm trying to look up what it is, illegal fishing, like what's the poaching on that, and it's hundreds of dollars in Ontario. I'm not like it can be up to $750, but the fines get tacked on per incident. So if you catch multiple fish doing this, it could be a heck of a lot more. But let's show the clip.
You guys know that's very illegal, eh? You guys know this is very illegal, what you guys are doing? What's your guys' names? You're netting fish, yeah. You're netting fish, which is extremely illegal. You go to jail for that. You guys understand that? I've been videotaping you guys for a while. What's your guys' names?
Yeah, and par for the course, the answers are we didn't know it was illegal. And when that doesn't work, suddenly we no speak of the English.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hundreds of dollars per incident. And depending on the amount of fish they took, it's like there could be fishing out of season, fishing without a valid license. But it's and probably fishing over the limit too. But anyways, they won't get in trouble, but and so irresponsible, it just is disrespectful of our culture of conservation here in Canada. Nobody hates people who fish or hunt out of season more than actual fishers and hunters. For example, I just put a photo in the chat of my front yard over the weekend, and it is bow season here in Alberta, but I don't have my deer tags yet. And this, like literally 5-6 feet away from me, I could have jumped off my deck like a spider monkey and choked these things out, eating the mountain ash in my front yard. I could have also snuck around the back, stood on the deck, and just popped 2 arrows in both of them. But I don't have tags, so I had to just say, "See you later, fellas. I'll catch you in a bit." Because as people who are, hunters and fishermen, you just can't fish and hunt out of season or illegally. It jeopardizes the harvest for all of us. That sort of stuff is how all of a sudden you can no longer fish at all from that area. They changed the wildlife management rules because of stuff like that. And it is because people aren't properly taught about our culture when they come here.
Well, Sheila, the risk of sounding culturally insensitive, I think this speaks to a high trust society and a low trust society.
Yes.
And when people from a low trust society come to a high trust society, you have rule breakers. And I remember our beloved big boss man, Israel Levant, a couple of years ago, he was showing clips. I'll never forget it. It was the marathon in London, England. And, as the marathoners run by, there's various checkpoint stations, and there's volunteers holding out a water bottle that the runner grabs and drinks, as they run on. And there was a checkpoint station, and it was near an apartment complex. And it was a lot of new arrivals to England, I think primarily from Nigeria, in this complex. And they were walking along. And as you can imagine, for all the thousands of runners in the marathon, they had hundreds and hundreds of cases of bottled water just sitting on the sidewalk. And residents of this apartment building see these cases of water. No one's guarding it. And they just grab them by the case, and like worker ants just walk back to the apartment building. Basically, the idea is if it's right for the taking, I'm going to take it. Like, everyone knows or should know that these are there for the marathon runners, and that, we really shouldn't have, security guards minding the cases of bottled water. But no, and that's the result. You had all these cases of bottled water pilfered as the marathon's going. And I would argue it's the same thing here, getting into that river in Bowmanville and taking salmon out of season with a net.
Yeah, I saw that something similar happened here in Alberta. I think it was over the weekend. The people showed up on the side of the road in a very similar scenario, and they were taking corn out of a field.
Yes.
I was near Ponoka, Alberta, home of the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, and they were taking corn off the farmer's field. They said they had permission. I doubt it. After the fact, it sounded like they didn't have permission. And at least the people had little to no knowledge of what they were taking, so they won't get much benefit out of it because it was feed corn.
Yes.
So good luck. Unless they have cattle at home, good luck to them.
The joke was on them. It wasn't meant for human consumption, that corn. I don't believe that they had permission.
They absolutely did not.
No.
They absolutely did not.
And that's interesting. There's a Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. I wonder if I'm in there for writing Oscar back in 1985 at the Smoky Lake Rodeo. Did I ever tell you about that, Sheila?
Yeah, multiple times. I don't think you got paid, so I would doubt that it was the Pro Rodeo. It was a Pro Rodeo appearance for you. It's just, as you tend to be, a bit of a charity case.
I'm sorry I've told that story more than once, given I almost lost my life that day. Imagine there'd never be such a thing as a David the Menzoy Menzies, and we wouldn't be having this discussion. So forgive me, she-devil.
Perish the thought. I think, Olivia, do we have any chats today, or was just the ad reads? Okay, perfect. Yes. Olivia reminds me to tell our viewers and our friends, who hopefully will also tell their friends, that tickets are still on sale for Rebel News Live. If you want your tickets, go to rebelnewslive.com. It's October 5th in Calgary. And the guest speakers, incredible. We've got Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta, Tamara Leach, Dr. David Ellis, MP. He's the Shadow Minister of Health. April Hutchinson, of course, you know her, Team Canada powerlifter and strong advocate for keeping female sports female. We've got Tom Flanagan, and we also added Chris Sims, the Alberta Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and my good friend. So Big lineup.
Who wouldn't want to go? That's the question. Not who wants. I mean, just one of those guests alone would be worth the price of admission, methinks, Sheila. But
Yes.
wow, that's an all-star panel, I'll say.
Yes, and there's also an opportunity for VIP tickets. So we have a special all-day VIP lounge as well as a VIP dinner afterwards. So you can mix and mingle with all of your favorite Rebels and our guests. It's at rebelnewslive.com. Yeah, that's great. I think that's the show, though.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And of course, special thanks to my lovely co-host, Sheila Gunn-Reid. We will be back here on Friday, I do believe, for the Friday Rebel News live stream. In the meantime, as always, stay safe and stay sane.
Support a confidence motion in the House that mentions scrapping the consumer carbon price.
Let us be very clear. Canadians are doing their part. Canadians are fighting hard, but they see Justin Trudeau and the Liberals giving big oil and gas a free ride. That is a problem. That is wrong. Big oil and gas should not be getting a free ride. We need to make sure we've got the courage to stop big polluters from polluting. That is the fundamental element of our plan that neither the Liberals nor the Conservatives are willing to do. They have consistently given billions of dollars of your hard-earned money to these big, profitable oil and gas companies, and the Conservatives want to let them do even more. Every motion that comes before us, we'll take a look at it, and we'll make a determination what's in the best interest of Canadians. I know by ripping up the agreement, that has made an election date more likely. We will be ready for an election.